good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it is in the cosmos, whenever this is finding you there. Welcome or welcome back. I want to thank y'all for showing up. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for all of that engagement. Welcome to Kai Chi Alchemy. You can call me Katchi. This is a space of love, y'all. Welcome or welcome back. So today's been a very interesting day. I just saw 36 on the timer. There's been lots of 3s and 6s and 9s for this group today. Take it if it resonates, leave the rest. But yes, my living room was flooded this morning when I was supposed to be doing the lives. And so I came over to my altar space and the floors were like squish, 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 squish. And last time I had a bunch of towels to deal with that. But where I'm at in my laundry cycle right now, it just didn't work out that way. So had to wait for that to subside a little bit so that we could be functional up in here. 1, 2, 4 on the clock. Growth, doubling, progression. So I believe that today we're gonna be pulling a Sacred Sites card or reading the anomaly. And you know what? I think that's what we're gonna do. I know it was a change of plans, but this whole season has been about learning how to go with the flow. Today is the Cancer new moon. So that is definitely the energy right now with this new moon is not just going with the flow, but like learning to, choosing to surrender, to release control, to release the attempt to understand, prematurely. Not to say that things may always feel like this necessarily. However, yeah. So, oh, hello. Hello, welcome from Brazil. How are you doing today? What time is it down there right now? Is it really early or is it really late? We have 22 people in the chat right now. That's a cute number. We were just talking about the 4s, stability, the heart. Yeah, so definitely sinking into your heart. Definitely surrendering to your heart. Definitely releasing that part of yourself that's seeking answers, seeking solutions, seeking to fix something. You know what I mean? You should be sleeping, so it's really late in Brazil right now. Cool. Well, I think today we're actually going to end up reading the anomaly. So a little story time might be called for. Maybe I'll put you to sleep. I hear my reading voice is relaxing sometimes, but we'll see what the content of this story is. Actually, it'll be relaxing content as well. Hello. If you're saying good morning, then you're definitely not in Brazil, right? Where are you today? What time zone you in? Where are you checking in from? All right, so if we're gonna be reading the anomaly today, chapter 27, then I should check real quick. It is now 11:45 p.m. in Brazil. Oh, yeah, that is quite late. Oh, you're fine. Your translator's doing a great job. I've been there before myself. As somebody who lived in Mexico as a toddler, but always struggled with my confidence, with like my pronunciation and just my Spanish in general. I have definitely utilized human and robotic translators in many circumstances before. And living in Texas, I'm constantly presented with opportunities for that because we got tons of immigrants and we're on the border and all of that stuff. Oh, yeah. But H Busta 161, right? Where are you coming from in the morning time? Let me know and I'll check the chat again before I hop off. Oh, we have 33 people right now. Does anybody have a question that they would like me to pull some cards on before we get started with this chapter today? Because that's so cute. We had 22 people and then we had 22 people and then we had 33 people. Okay, cool. Well, when I asked that, we had a couple people jump off, which means probably that's not what they were here for, and that's fine. My day was, my day was all over the place. At the end of the day, averaging out to a mean of very good, very nice. Yeah, I'm grateful for how it worked out. We did start the day with this live getting postponed due to my apartment getting flooded, but the floors are no longer squishy, and I'm here with all of you guys, and I survived work, and I made money, and I ate food, and I got sunlight in my eyeballs. And if you are in the chat right now and you would like to participate, why don't you start by adding some lists of things that you are grateful for that you got to experience today, the things that make you feel like life's worth living and all that, you know? I am in the USA. I'm in the Central Standard Time Zone. I'm coming from Texas, from Austin, Texas, in the United States, and that is in Central Texas because we're a very large state, so that could be pertinent. Yeah, thank you guys so much for all the engagement in the chat. Y'all are awesome. Thank you. That's so funny. I literally just took my hair out of my like ponytail that I put on top of my head to keep it from getting any split ends and giving me headaches and stuff. And it makes me look kind of like Cindy Lou Who, some like, old school 90s hair vibes going on or something. I almost look like I've got like a hair wrap going on or something, some cultural appropriation line, tightrope walking. But I mean, yeah, I when I pull it out, it's big. I got the 80s hair today, Didn't even use any hairspray. Thank goodness. We want the ozone. Thank you for being prepared and all that. Oh, that's right, because you're from Brazil, and so English is definitely not easy for you. Well, I appreciate that feedback because if my voice, my cadence, my pronunciation, and all of this stuff in my native language works for you to be able to kind of understand, that's pretty impressive. Because I struggle sometimes to communicate with people of my own culture, of my own language, of my own area. And so if I can communicate our English good enough for you to pick up some of it, that makes me feel a little bit better about all of the people around me that can't understand what I'm saying. Oh, you gotta go? Okay, good night, jellyfish. I think that it's about time for us to read the anomaly now. If you would like to check it out later, go ahead and just go onto the live tab or onto the Ringing Cedars playlist, and you can go ahead and listen along with us. All right. And were you the one who wanted to go to sleep, or was that yeah. Yep. Well, that's good then. That you're probably going to bed, right? Right? We all got to be responsible for ourselves. We got to do the right things because that's the place that we've come to on our own. Not because somebody on the internet is shaming us or telling us what to do or giving us advice. So yes, here we do divination and I channel messages, but those messages are 100% here as a test to your discernment, your intuition, your ability to parse through things and figure out what resonates with your own heart and what is true for you. And since these are collective messages, they will not resonate with everybody. And it's very essential that you tap into that heart space, into that intuition, that you take a one breath meditation. And whether you're here with a so-called intuitive or so-called psychic, whether you're with a paid practitioner, whether you're with a friend or a family or at work or with your therapist or freaking anywhere at all, always use your discernment. 11:22 on the clock. Always use your discernment. Always, never do something just because somebody told you. Never take somebody's advice and just go off of the guilt and the shame of not meeting those expectations of that person. Never go to somebody for advice in such desperation that you're just willing to eat up whatever they have to say, no matter what it feels like, right? It's not what it sounds like. It's not what it looks like. It's what it feels like. Hello, Cameroon. How are you today? Where are you coming from? All right. So we're going to read chapter 27 from book 2 of the Ringing Cedars of Russia series, titled The Ringing Cedar of Russia. The anomaly. When we buried Anastasia's parents, she was still very young, Anastasia's grandfather began. She wasn't yet able to walk or talk. My father and I dug a hole in the ground with the animals' help. We placed branches at the bottom, put the bodies of Anastasia's parents in the hole, and covered them over with grass and earth. We stood there a while on the burial mound without saying a word. Little Anastasia sat a short distance away in the glade, watching a bug crawling along her arm. We thought it was just as well that she wasn't yet able to be fully aware of the misfortune that had befallen her. Then we quietly walked away. What do you mean you walked away? You just walked off and abandoned this poor, ignorant little girl to her own devices? We didn't abandon her. We left her in the same spot where her mother had given birth to her. You have a concept known as Shambhala, or motherland. The meaning of these words is becoming more and more abstract. Motherland, that is literally mother land. Mother. In anticipation of their child's appearance in the world, parents ought to create a space for him, an environment of kindness and love, and to give him a piece of the motherland which, like a mother's womb, both preserves the body and caresses the soul. It imparts the wisdom of creation and assists in obtaining the truth. And what can a woman give her child who is born amidst stone walls? What kind of world has she made ready for him? Or has she given any thought at all to the world in which her child is to live? In that case, the world will do with him as it likes. It will strive to subject this little human being unto itself making him a mere cog or a slave, and the mother will simply become an observer, as she has not made ready for her child any space of love. You see, Vladimir, nature, the nature surrounding Anastasia's mother, the creatures, large and small, treated her as they would treat any man who lived the way she did, as a friend, as a wise and good deity, one who had created around her a world of love. Anastasia's parents were happy and kind people. They very much loved one another, loved the earth, and the space around them responded to them with love. Little Anastasia was born into this space of love and at once became its center. Many creatures will not touch a newborn. A mother cat may nurse a puppy, or a mother dog a kitten. Many wild animals are capable of nursing and taking care of human offspring, but these animals have become wild to people in your world. To Anastasia's mother and father, they played quite another role. The creatures treated them entirely differently. Anastasia's mother gave birth to her in the glade, and many creatures were witness to the birth. They saw how the woman they revered became a mother and bore another man, another human being. When they witnessed the birth, their feelings toward their human friend, their love for her, intertwined with their own parenting instincts, giving birth to a new, exalted manifestation of light. Everything, absolutely everything in that surrounding space, from the tiniest bug and blade of grass to the seemingly ferocious beast, was ready, unhesitatingly, to give its life for the sake of that little being. And there was nothing in that surrounding space of motherland, created and bestowed by its mother, that could possibly have threatened that being. Everything would look after and cherish this human being. To Anastasia, the little glade is literally a mother's womb. The glade is her living motherland, powerful and kind, and inextricably tied by a natural, living thread to the whole universe, to the whole creation of the grand creator. The little glade is her living motherland. It came from her mother and her father, and from the one and only, the original father. We could never be a substitute for it. That is why, after burying her parents, we walked away. 3 days later, while we were approaching the glade, we felt a tension in the air. We heard wolves howling. Then we saw little Anastasia was sitting quietly atop the burial mound. One of her cheeks was smeared with earth. We realized she had been sleeping on the mound. Tiny tears were streaming from her eyes and falling onto the ground. She was crying noiselessly, with only an occasional sob. And she kept stroking and stroking the burial mound with her little hands. She wasn't able to talk, but she did say her first words on this mound. We heard them. At first, she simply uttered syllables. Ma, ma. Then pa, pa. She repeated this several times. Then she added a syllable to each. Ma, much, ka, pa, poch, ka. Ma, much, ka, pa, poch, ka. I am Anastasia. I now have you no more, eh? Only my grandpa's, eh? My father was the first to realize it. Even as we were burying her parents, little Anastasia, sitting there in the glade and watching the bug, was fully aware of the whole depth of the misfortune that had befallen her. She used her willpower to refrain from showing her feelings. With her mother's milk, she had been imbued with the wisdom and strength of her pristine origins. Nursing mothers have that capacity, Vladimir. The capacity to pass along to their baby, together with mother's milk, the conscious awareness and wisdom of the ages right back to their pristine origins. Anastasia's mother knew how to do this and used this method to full advantage, to the fullest possible advantage. Since Anastasia didn't want us to see her crying, we didn't go out into the glade and didn't approach the mound, but we couldn't tear ourselves from the spot. So we just stood there, observing what was going on. Supporting herself on the burial mound, little Anastasia attempted to stand on her little feet. She didn't do it on the first try, but still, she managed to stand up. She stood there swaying back and forth, stretching her arms out a little to each side, and finally took her first timid step away from her parents' grave, then a second step. Her little feet got mixed up in the grass, and her little body lost its balance and started to fall. But the fall, well, that was something quite unusual. At the moment she fell, a barely noticeable bluish glow came flooding over the glade and changed the Earth's laws of gravity just on that particular spot. It touched us too with some kind of mellow languor. Anastasia's body didn't fall, but gradually and smoothly descended to the ground. Once she got up on her feet again, the bluish light disappeared, and the normal gravitation field was restored. With careful and hesitating footsteps, Anastasia went over to a little branch lying in the glade and was able to pick it up. We realized she had started cleaning up the glade, as her mother had done many times. This wee little girl then carried the dry branch to the edge of the glade, but once again she lost her balance, began to fall, and dropped the branch. During her fall, once more, the bluish glow sparked into life, changing the Earth's gravitational field, and the branch flew over to the little pile of dry branches lying at the edge of the glade. Anastasia got up, looked around for the branch, but couldn't find it. Then, throwing up her little hands with shaky steps, she slowly made her way over to another branch. No sooner had she started bending over to pick it up than the branch itself began rising from the ground as though a breeze had blown it to the edge of the glade. But there wasn't enough of a wind around to do this. Some invisible presence was carrying out little Anastasia's desires. But she wanted to do everything herself, as her mama had done, and no doubt in protest against this help from her invisible ally, she thrust her little hand into the air and waved it gently above her head. We looked up and saw it. Over the meadow, we saw hanging a small spherical mass, pulsating and glowing with a pale blue light. We could see a whole multitude of fiery discharges inside its transparent covering, giving the effect of multicolored lightning. Indeed, it was very similar to large ball lightning, but it was intelligent. We couldn't tell what it was made of and what kind of intelligence we were dealing with. We could feel some kind of unknown and unseen power in it, but there was no sense of fear of this power. On the contrary, it seemed to be radiating a pleasant, languid grace. We didn't feel like moving, we just felt like being. But what made you think it possessed untold power? I interrupted. My papa noticed that. Even though it was a bright, sunny day, the leaves on the trees and the petals on the flowers turned in its direction. In its bluish glow, there was more power than in the sun's rays. It could change the Earth's gravitational field at the moment Anastasia fell, just in the right place and at just the right time. The change was so precise that her body descended smoothly, but yet was not torn away from the earth. Anastasia spent a long time collecting branches. Sometimes she would crawl, at other times walk, all over the meadow with slow steps, until she had cleared them all away. And the fiery sphere, still pulsating, hovered over the wee little one. But it no longer helped her pick up the branches. The powerful fiery sphere seemed to understand the gesture of her little hand and obeyed it, expanding and dissolving in space, contracting and producing internal discharges like flashbulbs of some kind of energy from goodness knows where. The sphere would momentarily disappear and then reappear as though it were somehow excited, and this excitement caused it to sweep through space at an incredible speed. The time came when Anastasia normally lay down to sleep. We never compel our children to sleep, rocking them back and forth until they become dizzy. At this time, Anastasia's mother would simply lie down herself in the usual spot and pretend to doze off to show her child by example. Little Anastasia would crawl over to her, snuggle up against her warm body, and peacefully fall asleep. And this time, Anastasia went to the spot where she used to sleep, where she was used to sleeping during the day with her mother. She stood and looked at the place where she had always slept with her mama at this time, but now there was no mama around. It was not clear just what she was thinking at that moment. Only once again a tiny tear glistened in a sunbeam on Anastasia's face. And right away, the bluish glow came pulsating across the glade, flashing at irregular intervals. Anastasia raised her little head, saw the pulsating mass of light, sat down on the grass, and began staring at it continuously. It remained still under her gaze. For some time, she just sat there staring like that. Then she held out both her little arms in its direction, as she was wont to do when summoning one of the creatures to her side. At that point, the fiery spear sparked up in a multitude of powerful lightning bolts, reaching out beyond its blue covering and made a dash for her little arms like a fiery comet. Looking as though it had the ability to sweep away everything in its path, it took only a split second to reach Anastasia's face, start rotating, and with one of its lightning flashes, wipe away a tiny tear glistening on her cheek. And at this point, it extinguished all the discharges and became a pale blue, faintly glowing spear in the arms of the little one sitting on the grass. For a time, Anastasia sat there holding it, examining it, and stroking it with her hands. Then she got up, lifted up the blue spear, and with careful steps, carried it over and put it down on the place she used to sleep with her mother. And again, she caressed it gently. The spear took up a position on the ground and pretended to doze off, just as Anastasia's mother had done, and the little girl lay down beside it. She fell asleep. She slept there on the grass, all curled up into a ball. The spear took flight, disappearing into the heavenly heights, then spread itself low over the glade as though it were a blanket. Later, once more contracting into a small pulsating ball, it took up a position next to Anastasia, who was still sleeping on the grass, and began stroking her hair. It was a strange and unusual caressing. With the most delicate luminescence and flickering threads of lightning, it took each individual strand of hair, lifted it, and caressed it. On subsequent visits to Anastasia in her glade, we saw it again on several occasions. We realized that to Anastasia, it was something quite natural, just like the sun or the moon or the trees and animals around her. And she had conversations with it, just as she did with everything else around her. But it was evident she made a distinction between it and the other things in her environment. The distinction wasn't too noticeable in terms of outward expression, but there was a definite impression that she treated it with just a little more respect than the other things. And sometimes she would even play up to it. She never played up to anyone else, but for some reason she allowed herself to behave this way with the spear. It reacted to her mood and even played along. The morning Anastasia turned 4, Grandfather continued, we were standing at the edge of the glade, waiting for her to wake up. We wanted to quietly watch and see how she would delight in the new spring day that was unfolding. The spear appeared just a moment before she woke up. It glistened faintly with its bluish glow, either spreading itself in a shower of light or dissolving over the whole space of the glade. And we beheld a natural living picture made by no human hand. It was charming and magnificent. The whole glade was transformed. The surrounding trees, the grass, even the bugs. The needles of the cedars began shining in a host of soft hues, Behind the squirrels springing from branch to branch could be seen rainbow trails sparkling and dissolving. The grass was lit up in a soft green glow. An even more pronounced multicolored glow emanated from the multitude of bugs scurrying through the grass, forming an unusually vivid and beautiful carpet spreading its way across the glade, constantly morphing itself into new, intricate, and marvelous patterns. Upon awakening, Anastasia opened her eyes to behold an extraordinary living panorama full of enchantment. She jumped up and gazed all around. She smiled as she always did in the morning, and everything around her responded to her smile with an even brighter glow and accelerated movement. Then Anastasia carefully knelt down and began meticulously examining the grass and the shining, multicolored bugs scurrying about. When she lifted up her head, the slightly worried expression on her face betrayed a measure of concentration. She looked up, and even though nothing was visible up there, stretched her little arms to the sky. All at once, the still air stirred, and in her hands appeared the bluish sphere. She held it up to her face, then put it down on the grass and tenderly stroked it. And we could hear their conversation. Anastasia was the only one who actually spoke, but we had the distinct impression that the sphere was understanding her and even silently responding. Anastasia spoke with it tenderly, with just a touch of sadness. You are good. You are very good. You wanted to delight me with your beauty. Thank you. But change it back. Please change it back to the way it was before, and do not ever change it again. The blue sphere emitted another pulse, then lifted slightly off the ground, and the lightning discharges flashed from within, but the glowing scene did not fade. Anastasia fixed her gaze upon it and spoke to it once again. Every little beetle, bug, and ant has its mama. Everyone has a mama. All mamas love their children just the way they were born. It does not matter how many legs they have or what color they are. You have changed everything. How will the mamas recognize their children now? Please make everything as it was before. The sphere gave a faint flash, and everything in the glade was restored to the way it looked before. Once again, it descended to Anastasia's feet. She stroked it and offered it a thank you. She stared silently at the sphere for a while, and when she spoke to it again, her words really impressed us. She told it, "Do not come to see me again. I like being with you. You are always trying to do only what is good for everyone, always trying to help. But do not come visit me. I know you have a very large glade of your own, but you think very fast. So fast that I cannot understand all at once. Only later shall I understand a bit. You move faster than everything else. Much faster than the birds and the breeze. You do everything very fast and very well, and I know that is how you must do it to get everything done, to do good in your own very large glade. But when you are with me, it means you are not there. So, when you are with me, There was no one to do good in the other glade. Go away. You need to take care of the large glade. The blue sphere contracted into a little lump and took off way up high. It began sweeping through space, sparkling more brightly than usual, and once more plunged down like a fiery comet to Anastasia, who was still sitting in the same spot. It stayed still by her head for a while. Then a multitude of tiny flickering rays reached out to Anastasia's long hair and stroked each strand individually right down to the tip. What are you taking your time for? Anastasia said quietly. You should get going back to those who are waiting for you. I'll make everything all right here myself, and I will be happy to know that everything is all right in the large glade too. I shall be able to feel you, and I want you to think of me too, but just occasionally. The blue sphere began ascending, but not with its usual carefree bounce. It rose from Anastasia in fitful bursts, and finally disappeared into space. But it left something invisible all around. And each time when something happened that affected Anastasia negatively, the surrounding space would grow still, as though paralyzed. That is why you lost consciousness when you tried to touch her without her consent. She pacifies this phenomenon by waving her hands in the air whenever she can. Just as before, she wants to do everything all by herself. We asked our little Anastasia, what was that glowing thing that was hovering over the glade? What do you call it? She thought for a bit and answered briefly, I would call it good, Grandpakins. The oldster fell silent, but I still wanted to hear about how little Anastasia lived in the forest, and I asked him, what did she do after that? How did she live? The same way, the old fellow replied. She grew up just like anyone else. We suggested she help the Dachniks. By the time she was 6, she was already able to see people at a distance, to discern their feelings and help them. She got involved with the Dachniks. Now she believes that the phenomenon of the Dachniks offers an easy transition to making sense of what constitutes our earthly existence. Here, she's been continually shining that ray of hers for 20 years now. She's given warmth to plants on the small plots of land. She's treated people's illnesses. She's tried to explain to people, without imposing on them, how one should handle plants. And she's had terrific results. Then she started observing other aspects of human life. And destiny brought her together with you. And now she's come out with the idea of carrying people through the dark forces window of time. And what do you think? She'll be successful? I asked. Vladimir, Anastasia knows the power of thought inherent in man as a creator. Otherwise, she would never have let herself make such a statement. From now on, she will not deviate from this path. She'll stick to it. She's a stubborn lass. It comes from her father. So she's taking concrete steps, I observed. She's trying to make her thought forms into reality, and here we are just sitting and rationalizing about the spiritual, like kids wiping their noses. You know, there's quite a few people that still ask me, does Anastasia really exist? Or did I just dream everything up myself? That's not a question people can actually ask. People touched by the book will feel her right away. She is in the book. Questions like that can only be asked by illusory people, not real people. Chapter 28 is called Illusory People. And it's very short, so I'll definitely be reading it very soon. I had totally forgotten what that chapter was about. That was a fun one. Thank you guys for joining me for that. And then, yeah, let me get through the chat because I did say that I would do that. You should tell people what they should do, huh, Cameroon? Oh, you did that said hi thing too. Weird. I am not. I mean, I don't know. What does emo mean? I love black. I listen to all kinds of music. So I definitely listen to dark, depressing music sometimes. I don't know. How do you get your emo card? Tell me all of the rubric. I would love to know. It's never been an identity of mine, if that's what you're asking. I wasn't one of those kids in school or whatever. In fact, isn't emo related in some sense to the phenomenon of like scene kids? When I was in the beginning of my career, right out of high school, I was hanging out with my boyfriend and some of his friends. And at some point, like at first they liked that I had a car and money and like, you know, a job and they could use me for that. But then they started acting kind of weird around me, kind of like suspicious or like trying to put me down, and then like I would ignore it, and so they would just like think I was dumb and aloof, and they were just like, and I just kept thinking it was funny that they were like trying to make fun of me. And at some point in there, they he asked like my boyfriend's friend asked, so like like we were all these people, we all did this stuff, 47 like we were scene kids basically. And he said it in a way where like I didn't have to answer. It wasn't like a really direct question directed at me, but it was clear that I was just like, no, I was not one of those kids. I spent most of high school like by myself, focusing on getting through my coursework as fast as possible so I could go to massage therapy school as fast as possible so that I could afford to buy property and plant fruit trees for my great great grandkids and have a safe place so that maybe someday I could have friends and family and stuff. But that was, that was where I was at already there. And so even though I didn't talk about it all the time, I didn't like put that on people, they just like felt like there was something different about me. And so I thought it was so funny when he was asking, he realized that I wasn't a scene kid, whatever that means, and that I didn't go hanging out with all of these rebellious punk kids at these shows and dress in a certain way and do my makeup in a certain way, which was weird because he was like extremely anti-makeup at that point in time, like you rebel against one thing and then you become kind of a tyrant about something else. He got his girlfriend to like get all vegan and super healthy, to change the way she was eating and stop dyeing her hair, like be all natural and stuff, right? But it was just another identity group. It was just another dogma. It was just another play. It was just another manipulation. It was like, it wasn't a genuine identity from the inside out where it's like you're expressing who you are. It's like, oh, I want this group is better than that group. I'll be that group and I'm going to do the things that group does, right? So he's like, oh, we're all hippies that used to be scene kids, and that's why we can trust each other. And then when he realized that I was not that, and I actually didn't come from a group, and I had always resisted groups, and I hadn't gone from one into another, and I just like kept being myself. And so it was like you're in the world but you're not of the world, right? Like I was in the group but I was not of the group, and that was that was unsettling to them. Like they couldn't trust me, like I couldn't keep their secrets, like I couldn't do things with them the way that they were doing things because I wasn't one of them. And I thought it was hilarious because I was like, aren't y'all's entire identities built upon being the outcast, being the other, being misunderstood? Like my mom and my dad don't understand me, society doesn't understand me, my preacher doesn't understand me, this person treated me bad, that person treated me bad, I'm gonna go create a new community with all these misfits, right? That's usually what those groups of kids are doing. But how in the world are you gonna go from one like unhealthy, toxic, judgmental, non-inclusive space to another space where you just create another dogmatic, non-inclusive, fear-based system and community? It just broke my brain, and I was like, I surely must be misinterpreting this situation. But then over the next year or two, it became extremely evident that that was what was happening. And I was in such cognitive dissonance around it for so long, but it was literally creating drama and heartache and affecting my physical health and my financial health and my relationships, because I was being actively undermined by this group of people who saw me as a threat and didn't approach me in that way and talk to me as if I was that to them. But they came after me. They were attacking me. They were trying to belittle me. They were trying to undermine the things that I was doing. They were trying to pull apart my relationship. They were trying to stoke paranoia and fear in my partner. There was all kinds of insane stuff that was going on, and I felt it. I felt it, but I doubted it because I didn't want to believe that that was true. I wanted to believe their words, and I wanted to not believe what I was feeling because what I was feeling was so disturbing. And that's why I am here today, because I would like to help people who would like to never again be in this circumstance where you have this gut feeling and you have this discernment, you have this intuition, and you know something. And you can utilize that information as a resource for yourself, to help yourself and others, to help work things out for the greatest good of all. But if you don't trust yourself, if you don't respect yourself, if you don't move that way, then you're gonna get yourself in a lot of trouble, and you might not make it. I almost didn't. It's a miracle that I am alive and not 6 feet under or in jail or something. It's actually insane. Hey. Oh yeah, thank you. I've been very busy with work just in general, period. The title of this book is The Ringing Cedars of Russia. It's definitely a great book to read before bed. Generally recommended to read in like natural settings, like to hang out outside if you have the ability. And I did recently post the link to the Ringing Cedars of Russia website for like buying books in English in America. And right now they're working on getting the 3rd edition published because these are very rare. They have them on that website now, which is awesome, but there are only a couple left. And previously they had gotten, they dwindled so much when Vladimir and the publishers had a falling out and they stopped publishing these books in America for a while, that you could find the first and second edition books for one book. There's 9 of them, not the whole series, just one book. You'd find on like eBay for $500 or something. So that is why I'm putting out the read alouds. You can go on the playlist section and find the Ringing Cedars of Russia series playlist there, and you can listen along with us. We're on the second book out of the 9 books right now. So you can go through and listen to book 1, Anastasia, anytime that you'd like, and all of the chapters that we've gotten through so far. I don't really have this as a scheduled thing. I'll just do it whenever I have time. So I'm glad that you ended up, finding us. Lol, emo was back in junior high days. Were you part of that emo group back in when you were in junior high school? Did you go to junior high in what do you say? San Antonio, Dallas, something like that? I know it's Central Texas. Remind me. Yes, some of those scene kids can be weird. All those scene kids were weird, but I love weird. Some of them were bad weird, though. I swear. I didn't stick around to try and prove it because not worth it. My own health and happiness and safety, yo. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, bro. Yeah. Oh man, I told my mother I would text her when I got home, and I don't think that I did that because she was worried I was going to die in a flood. But it's literally not dropped one drip of rain from the sky where I'm at right now. She just saw some notification somewhere about flash flooding in town and immediately decided I was going to die tonight. So if y'all are dealing with any kind of hyper vigilant friends and family right now, or if that is yourself, no matter what the case it may be, all of those things will be benefited and assisted by you getting some excellent sleep of your mind, of your body, of your soul this evening. And help us all to ground the collective during this insane time of earth electrification and global chaos and all the things, as you probably know. Hi, Aisha Santiago. Welcome in. How are you doing? How's your day going so far? Where are you coming from today? Let me read that other one. Oh, you went to junior high in Illinois, about an hour and a half away from Chicago, but you did live in San Antonio, Texas for about a year and a half. Okay, so I kind of remembered something accurate. Cool. That's funny you said that you went to junior high in Illinois outside of Chicago. My family on my mother's side, was JC's family from Chicago? I think so. But either way, she lived in Chicago when she was little. She'd scoop the snow up, clear the driveway and everything. She hated it. It was traumatizing. She, in fact, turned down a full ride scholarship to a college in the Northwest because she was like, I need sun. I will go to UT and pay off loans for the rest of my life, please. And so Chicago was the place where my mother's father's parents lived, if I'm remembering this correctly. And my mother's father's father was part of a family that was like an insurance, I don't know what the word for that is. They made a lot of money. They had a lot of power. They were in insurance. And LJ, I think was his name, JC's dad. LJ was like, I am morally opposed to this and I'm writing it off and I'm gonna go be a musician and I want nothing to do with all of this. And so his family like wrote him out of the wills and like, basically turned our family into a different thing. Like we're not a part of that family anymore, which severed the ties to this toxic, abusive industry that we could have gained a lot materially, resource wise from. And when LJ left and didn't have any money, and he married Clara Sands Pujol, my grandmother, or my great grandmother. They had a bunch of kids, not a bunch. I think they had like maybe 2 sons or something. They had some kids. LJ went and did his music, and he was kind of an alcoholic. We have a lot of liver stuff in my family. It's a starvation disease, like liver energy is about the experience of starvation. So we have been getting our way through this. Like we went to rock bottom, physically, financially, to the bottom of the heap, and we've been having to slowly pull ourselves out of this. But that broke us away from this timeline and from this world that was pulling away our spiritual integrity. So he really gifted us something, I think. But through that experience, LJ always felt, incompetent. And, there's a lot of reasons I think that he drank a lot. It was part of the culture, like being an artist, being a musician, especially back in those days. And so he did a lot of good. He asked a lot of questions that needed to be asked. He confronted a lot of powers that needed to be confronted. But in doing so, he left a legacy of insecurity, and we've been trying to figure that out ever since, and find that balance between integrity and creativity and spirituality and art, and between physical, material stability and the way that we interact with civilization and the society that is, really run by these big, evil, toxic organizations. Yeah. So Chicago has a lot of meaning for me. And at one point in time, my grandfather and my grandmother moved to Austin, Texas, and they pretty much raised their family here. And most of us stayed here for a really long time. It's only been very recently that we started, splitting off. And that is, I think, a result of all of us being confronted with this dichotomy of like, we need security, we need stability, we need money, we need to be physically grounded in this world. We need to take care of our kids, we need to feel safe. But we also need to do what feels right to our conscience, to our heart, to our soul. And what is that? And what is our dharma? And those things, we're realizing now what we need and who we are. All of us, it's very different, and we all need to be in different places doing different things right now. And as much as we were tied to this identity of this family system, we really don't have a lot in common besides this attachment to, we just stick it together. We stick together so we can survive, and we stay in a pack. But if you are extremely loyal to a toxic group, that thing that's supposed to be security and safety and comfort and stability and health, it actually starts to become poison. And that's what happened with my family. I feel like I just went on a 5 or 10 minute rant about my family, but I think it was very relevant. Oh my goodness. So many chats. Woohoo! I was 26 or 27, I think, installing solar panels on roofs and traveling all over Texas. Did you know 4 Illinois can fit in Texas? Crazy huge. I think I've heard that before, but I totally forgot. Yeah, Texas is crazy huge. Absolutely. That's so funny you say that about the installing solar panels. My grandmother did a lot of things. She had so many different jobs and careers and skills. She had to. She raised 5 kids by herself. Her husband's never helped with any of that, just besides adding drama, didn't add money and stuff like that. And she was a solar panel electrician. That was like one of her main jobs. Back in the day when like female electricians were not a big thing either. So that's like such a interesting coincidence. So that's why you were out there in San Antonio. That makes sense. Aisha Santiago, you made a post like in the chat because I did mention it. Or do you mean somewhere else, like on a different platform? Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised either if I had met you. That's just kind of what happens to everybody in my family because I grew up with the whole old Austin community, and we get around. The musicians and in this area, and like the artists and the students, and yeah, we're big on community, and we're really not big on dividing people into groups, like the music brings everybody together, and we're all just people listening to music with very different lives. That's kind of the only way my family really gets together now. In a healthy, beneficial way, you know what I mean? Yes, I am very grateful for the transmutation that has been going on in my family. It's for the better and the worse. People that are really addicted to the toxicity, they're having a really hard time right now because they did not want things to change. But the people who were always used and abused and were benefited off of in our family system, they're doing very well right now, and I'm very happy for them, for their redemption arcs. All of that. It's beautiful. Been there with the finances, part of the reason I started to vigorously dive into learning day trading. Of course you are. I mean, no judgment. I love the meta mystic Missy. She's a total day trading bro. She's all about it. So I don't know much about it myself, but I get why, like the motivation. Yes, drinking and drugs can be a big part of the artistry culture. Man, as I am focusing on my projects here and on my art and on the things that I'm doing, it becomes more and more and more apparent and challenging, like in an objective sense, but also like internally for me. It gets easier and easier to deal with, but it's just like more and more opportunities of things in my face. Like, hey, this is how we do things. This is how we have fun. This is how we build community. This is how we get together. And I don't have any interest in drinking and doing drugs. Like, I'll literally take a sip of alcohol and immediately I'm like, my vision is not 20/20 anymore. It's kind of blurry and I can feel the headache coming on already. And like, it just is not worth it at all anymore. Are your parents both from the suburbs of Chicago? Really? Wow. How did you find my channel in the first place? Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that would be cool. I would love to get into all kinds of conversations with you guys, but it's way past my bedtime for one. I do need to text my mom because she probably thinks I'm dead right now. And if any of y'all weren't here in the beginning, my living room got flooded this morning, which is why I wasn't here to do the live tarot readings that I was hoping to do. So we will try that again tomorrow and see what happens. Because my landlord is just not being timely right now. Studying theater and film, acting at the Second City. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for being here, Aisha Santiago. Thank you for being here, Artie Self. Thank you for being here, everybody. I am gonna go probably eat some lunch and try and get in bed before midnight because I do have a life tomorrow and I love my circadian rhythms being in a good flow. So I'd love to be able to schedule lives, but I will not be even attempting to do that until the end of this Mercury retrograde because I'm not a glutton for punishment. Not anymore. Not right now, anyways. Thank you so much. Yes. I hope y'all have a wonderful evening. Love, light, peace, and personal responsibility. I will see you next time.